Hi, I'm Terri Meyer, and I started a project in 2014 to expand myself as an artist. The premise was to do a watercolor sketch a day for an entire year. And the reason that I decided to do that was I felt I wasn't practicing enough, and I wanted to see how the evolution would take my skills after a year. So I picked a spot outside my window, and I decided to make the same time of day every day. If I was in town, then I wouldn't do the sketch. But if I was home every morning between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m., I would create a 15 to 20 minute watercolor sketch. And so when I first started, I thought, well, I'll look out the window and I'll just choose different aspects of the scenery from this window. But I decided after about a week of doing it that I was going to paint the same scene every day. I wanted to see what would happen over the course of a year painting the exact same scene. So I used a limited palette of colors: New Gamboge, Raw Sienna, Ultramarine Blue, Viridian Black, and I did use an occasional white during the winter time for snow. And I also used 3 brushes, and I used a 4x6 watercolor block of Canson, and that's basically was all of my tools. I did not use a camera. I painted directly with lime. So I found myself being challenged, kind of primitive in the very beginning, because I'm not the greatest plein air painter, and that was the reason that I decided to improve my skills, because they needed some work. And so the first, I would say, 30 days, the paintings are very primitive. And as I progressed, I started to get more comfortable and more confident. There was days that I hit plateaus because the scenery really did not change as far as lighting or anything like that. But the interesting part was after, let's say, 60 days, I would look at the watercolor sketches, and then I would look at what had transformed. And on a day-to-day basis, it was hard for me to see the gradual change. I kind of liken it to when you're on a diet to lose weight. Day-to-day, you really don't see any difference, but over, let's say, 60 days of exercising and eating a different meal plan, you start seeing a transformation of your body. And I started seeing that with my painting. It was very exciting, and my paintings started to have a lot more life in them. I started to take more risk with my painting versus doing the same thing over and over, although I was stuck at periods of time where I felt like I'm not growing, I'm not doing anything differently. But it really allowed me to see my progress over a year, and I was thrilled at the end to see how much more life my paintings had. So if you're an artist, I challenge you to do the same thing, because it will do amazing things for your skills and your confidence. So I hope you enjoy this watercolor series, and you feel free to email me and let me know what you think. Terri@creativechateau.com. March 20th, 2014. It's almost spring, however winter seems to be holding on. Another gray day in Ohio. I'm ready for some excitement to occur in the landscape. I see hints of green appearing in the foreground, but the sun has been elusive with mostly gray blue skies. My painting shows subtle changes, but I am waiting, watching for the explosion of color that will occur over the next 30 days, so keep checking back to see my progress. March 21st, 2014. I woke up this morning to gray skies. As I relaxed and studied the familiar landscape, it softly started to snow. The distant tree line began to fade, and within 10 minutes it was a whiteout. So I added a whitewash over the sky, added spatters of snow to depict this wintry scene on the first day of spring. I continue to be optimistic that spring will present itself in the near future, and anxiously await the magnificent colors it will reveal.
April 12, 2014. Another month has quickly passed, and I continue to paint a watercolor sketch a day, with the exception of being out of town on business. The days are very cloudy, but the snow has turned to rain. The landscape is quietly shifting from winter to spring. Green is starting to appear in the landscape, the trees are becoming more purple-brown, and the field is showing signs of rebirth with soft yellows and pinks and a hint of green. It won't be long before I will be challenged by the overwhelming colors of green. The process continues to challenge and awaken a spark of enthusiasm in me every morning. I look forward to my quiet time with Mother Nature, seeing her change before my eyes in a matter of seconds. I'm getting to know her now, showing her moods from somber to delight. She is becoming a friend, and I look forward to connecting with every morning. May 7, 2014. Another month has come and gone. I reflect back to January when I started this discipline of a daily watercolor sketch. What have I learned? On a day-to-day basis, observing nature gets to be mundane because the shift is slow and gradual. But if I review the paintings from weeks prior, I see nature transforming quickly. It's like a metaphor for life. Our daily mundane activities don't show much change, but if we were to review our lives from 1 year, 5 years, etc., one can see how far we've come. I continue to embrace the daily activity of painting and truly love the experience. I want to make big leaps in experimenting with new techniques, but find myself hesitant because I don't want to compromise the paintings because of the uncertainty of the results. However, this is why I started this process, to experiment, observe, and challenge myself. Now I find myself wanting to complete a series that documents nature in the same style at which I started, so I have a cohesive body of work at the end of the year. Interesting how our egos dictate our lives and decisions. This is all part of the process to create, go within, and reveal why we make the choices that we do. It's all part of my artistic journey to become more skillful and to understand myself in the process. For now, I'm excited about the journey and what my next blog will contain because, like nature, it has not revealed itself to me. May 22, 2014. The visual diary of the view outside my window continues to be an activity I look forward to each morning between 8 and 9 a.m. To date, I have painted 118 watercolor sketches, which are created in about 20 minutes every morning. Although I do not write a detailed journal every morning, I do post the paintings on a weekly basis to the gallery page. The gallery slideshow is very interesting because it demonstrates how nature changes very slowly week to week. Some days are very similar in lighting and atmospheric characteristics, such as cloudy, rainy, or sunny, with only slight shifts in color. In performing this exercise, I am learning to paint trees with more depth, strengthening my values to push and pull the viewer's eye, and use richer colors in the painting. Before I was stingy with the color washes. Now I'm becoming more bold and using more concentrated paint on my brush. I read an interesting article a few days ago about Steve Jobs turning around Apple computers that relates to painting. After Steve Jobs left the company to move on to another venture, Apple executives got excited with lots of new product lines, so much so that they created over 300 products which almost made the company go bankrupt. Too many directions and lack of focus to be effective. Steve Jobs came to the rescue, eliminated all but 10 of their best products, and got the company back on track for profitability. Like painting, less is more. Using 6 colors on my palette forces me to understand my paint colors and how to mix them to achieve color variations. Painting one scene teaches me to notice the subtle changes in the atmosphere on a day-to-day basis. I've learned to notice how colors change from winter to spring. I am also learning how to shift the focal point in the painting, although most of the time I choose the center tree as the star of the painting. Each season presents its challenges. For instance, painting snow and blossoms on a tree. The first attempt wasn't magnificent, but after a few days of painting the same scene, I got a handle on the process and learned what type of technique yielded better results. I'm almost to the halfway point of this painting exercise, learning, growing, and continue to be excited every morning by the surprises Mother Nature has for my visual diary. June 9, 2014. I'm hitting a plateau, feeling like not much is changing in the landscape and that my painting skills are becoming mechanical and predictable. The daily variations that I observe in the landscape are in the color of the sky, intensity of the sun, and the lightness or darkness of the tree trunks. Everything else is similar to the previous day. I asked myself, how can I make this better and more dynamic painting? I've started experimenting with different underpainting colors, washes, and changing the combination of paints to shift the chroma of the green. I started combining yellow and black instead of Viridian and yellow, or ultramarine blue and yellow, to see if it has any noticeable difference. So far, it's been subtle shift to an earthier green. Also, I have been pushing my values a little stronger and attempting to use more chaotic brushstrokes for movement in the painting. Even with these changes, the paintings continue to look very similar from day to the next. Yesterday, there was heavy rain with a very gray-green landscape. It was a welcome reprieve to have a different feel to the landscape. Today, it was back to the sunny with lots of cast shadows off the trees to the left. I'm hoping that through this painting plateau, something exciting and technique will reveal itself to me, just as I have to wait and see. So will you until my next update. June 24, 2014. Upon my last entry, I felt as though I hit a plateau and was not growing in skill through this daily practice. However, I reviewed my last 30 watercolor sketches and quickly realized that was not the case. My watercolors were becoming more fluid and free. The execution of the trees were vastly improving since late April. By looking at the series, I realized that each day builds upon the next, and at each day there is slight improvement. It's similar to when you begin a diet and exercise program. At first you don't notice the weight coming off, but within 2 weeks you start noticing that your clothes have much more room in them. Then all of a sudden you have to go buy new clothes because your body has been transformed. This process is the same. If I look at a tree from April to the one I painted today, there is a significant difference in the quality of brushstroke and use of color. My colors are more fresh, the strokes less overworked. I plan the painting process intuitively now and am confident in my approach. Each day I become more aware of the subtle nuances of nature. Even though there can be similarities between the days, each is unique in feeling. It is that feeling that I work on capturing. July 17th. 2014. I continue to paint the same scene every morning, 175 paintings to date. As I review my progress, I realize this painting exercise is a metaphor for life. We tend to do the same things every day, go to work, take a shower, eat the same meal, shop at the same stores, make love with our spouses, etc. Every time we do these things, it's familiar but slightly different. I can never recreate a painting exactly the same. There will always be variations in my paint mixtures, brush strokes, drawing, mood, etc. Just as in life, we can never create another yesterday. We can remember that day, but never relive or recreate it exactly. So what's the point? The point is, every day we are given an opportunity to embrace life and start over. It's up to us to create it the same or do something totally different. Most of us are creatures of habit, and so we choose to do the same thing over and over. Ever heard of the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. Nothing wrong with that, but being aware of it allows one to make changes. Maybe tomorrow I will paint something different. August 14th, 2014. Another month has come and gone, and summer is quickly coming to a close. The subtle shifts of nature are occurring as the mornings and evenings are cooler, and the trees are showing signs of fall color. It's exciting to see new things happening in the landscape, changing from the greens and yellows to an explosion of color. If you've viewed the paintings so far, you will see a change in composition and a less rigid painting approach. This is the result of a workshop I attended in Maine at the end of July. Painting under the tutelage of Fred Graff, a wonderful artist and instructor, he encouraged me to think in abstract. Even though I do not strive to paint in the abstract, Fred emphasizes looking for abstract shapes in objects to allow the eye to fill in the details, resulting in a more dynamic style. Habits are hard to break, but I am practicing this technique daily. January 14, 2015. And now I come to the end of my journey, rest, reflect, and decide what will be the next experience that will allow me to grow, challenge myself, and allow life to evolve as an artist. I pondered 1 year ago, how would it feel to accomplish the discipline of painting every day and note any changes in my painting skills? Well, it doesn't feel any different, just empty during the period when I would paint. As far as improving dramatically, it was a subtle shift. I became more refined and more confident in my approach. Well, thank you for sharing the journey, and hopefully I will have more journeys in the future.